Chapter 22. Now You See Me. As the second experiment ran, Dr. Marlberg watched over Die Glocke like an expectant father. The reactor seemed to be running perfectly. Meters and gauges indicated nominal levels, but his hand never strayed far from the big red scram button. Sending Heinrich to gather data was a risk, but one that had to be made. They would never progress without such risks being taken. Looking out the control room window, he could see Heinrich crossing DG-001 to oversee, first-hand, Die Glocke. The familiar blue aurora had descended, enclosing Die Glocke. Dr. Marlberg could see Heinrich straining to see, leaning in closer and closer as the aurora increased in strength. As Die Glocke appeared to phase in and out of existence, Dr. Marlberg took note of the radio locator beacon's position, scribbling quickly on his notepad. The coordinates had started to fluctuate in time with the phasing, and not by small margins. Without working it out, he guessed they would amount to thousands of kilometers. Heinrich continued to walk around the test stand, inspecting every surface, though most were obscured by the aurora. As the experiment continued, the gauges began to oscillate, the autonomous systems desperately working to maintain a stable power level without introducing a highly dangerous criticality event. Heinrich had stopped, apparently trying hard to look at something through the aurora. That very second the gauges started to climb rapidly. No more than a few milliseconds later the auto scram kicked in. The sudden loss of power to the magnetic field generators created a shockwave, similar to the effect produced in a water pipe. The shockwave in turn created a loud bang that rang throughout DG-001. Dr. Marlberg instinctively looked to his 2IC and saw him visibly jump, a reaction to the thump of the reactor scram. Appearing to lose his balance, Heinrich leant in, trying to compensate, toward the still phasing Die Glocke. A small flash indicated that something possibly untoward had occurred. Seconds later, a relative silence fell over DG-001. Dr. Marlberg looked and saw Die Glocke sat atop its stand. As if nothing had happened, Heinrich was reaching into his pocket as he turned to walk back to the control room. A flurry of activity circled the reactor as the scram was being reset. "What happened, Heinrich?" asked Dr. Marlberg as he entered the control room. Still dressed in his protective clothing, Heinrich simply stood, as if preparing a speech as he held one of his gloves. "I am not sure, sir, but I found this." "It's your glove, Heinrich, so what?" asked Dr. Marlberg. "Yes, sir, it is, but it is not the one I was wearing," replied Heinrich. "What do you mean, not the one you were wearing? Where is it if it is not that?" pointing to the glove. Heinrich stopped for a second to gather his thoughts. There was going to be no easy way to say this, but he was desperate to minimize its effects. "Well, it is my glove, but not the glove I was wearing today. It's the glove I found yesterday." It was Dr. Marlberg's turn to stop and think. "Okay, so why is that very important, Heinrich?" "Well, it's important due to how I came to find it," Heinrich carefully explained. Starting to lose his patience, Dr. Marlberg snapped his response. Heinrich just spit it out. "Well, yesterday after the test run, I checked Die Glocke and found this glove stuck to the hull. I couldn't understand how it could have happened and presumed that it had been there all along, so I was going to quietly look into it. But during today's run, the bang of the scram caused me to lean into the blue aurora. It was at that point the glove I was wearing disappeared. It was after that I reached into my pocket and realized that the glove I found was my glove, but from today's experiment." Dr. Marlberg stopped and tried to process the information Heinrich had just supplied him with. "So you are saying you think the glove you lost today reappeared yesterday?" Heinrich was quite surprised by the lack of adverse reaction and simply replied, "Yes, sir, it can be the only explanation." Moving close to Heinrich, Dr. Marlberg took him by the shoulders. "In that case, Heinrich, well done. I think you may just have proved time travel is a very real possibility."